Well, it wouldn't be a Pokemon game for Nintendo Switch if it didn't have some controversy at launch, and Pokemon Champions is no exception. The free-to-play battle simulator is finally in our hands, and after a few hours with it, fans are already noticing a few problems. Let's start with a few issues we could see addressed in later seasons. Pokemon Champions launches with a lot of limitations to the battles we've grown accustomed to. The most obvious of these limitations is the starting roster, which features just 186 of the 1,025 total Pokemon in existence. While it may be a bummer that some of your favorite Pokemon may be left out, I understand and actually kind of support the choice, as it allows for a more tame meta to develop out of the gate and leaves room to grow and adapt in later seasons. It's also important to note that part of the reason for this low number of Pokemon is that Champions currently only features fully evolved Pokemon. No lower or middle stage Pokemon are currently in the game. However, that's not that big of a deal because as of now, neither is the item Eviolite, or almost any other item for that matter. Which brings us to our next issue. The held item selection at launch is abysmal, with just 58 total held items, not counting Megastones, the majority of which have rarely been considered viable in VGC, and half of which are berries. That's right, at launch there's no Life Orb, no Assault Vest, and while they included the Choice Scarf, we've got no Choice Band or Specs to go along with it. While you could argue that this limitation, like the limited selection of Pokemon, could be good for establishing a tame meta to start, it's undeniable that the viability of a lot of Pokemon will be significantly reduced without their go-to items to keep them in the fight. Megastones are also slightly limited, as new Z-Megas introduced in Pokemon Legends ZA are notably absent. The limited pool of Pokemon also limits the Megas that are going to be in this game. There are plenty of Pokemon not in the game that have Mega Evolutions, whether new Megas from Legends ZA or from previous games. Hell, even the really popular Hoenn starters who all have Mega Evolutions are mysteriously part of 2 sets of starter Pokemon missing from the initial lineup of Pokemon Champions. Not only that, but some of these Megastones you can't even buy from the shop. Pokemon such as AZ's Floette, Chestnut, Delphox, and Greninja all require you to bring in a Pokemon from Pokemon ZA in order to get their Megastones, effectively locking these Megas behind a paywall of those who were able to get Pokemon Legends ZA. One other missing battle element we noticed is moves. When bringing Pokemon from Pokemon Home, you may notice that some of their moves are not eligible for Champions. Not only does this limit move pool options and take away valuable tools for some Pokemon, it also forces you to have to spend your precious VP on a new move for that Pokemon in order to use them at all. The limited options at launch are definitely discouraging, but these are all issues that I'm sure are going to be addressed in future seasons, as we know more Pokemon, items, and mechanics are going to be added to the game. But what about the things we're not sure will be fixed? Well, the first of those worries starts with the game's performance, specifically on Switch 2. Despite receiving a performance update for the Switch 2 that improves resolution, the game still runs at 30 frames per second, a massive downgrade after being treated to a buttery smooth 60 FPS in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and Legends ZA for the Switch 2 version. Beyond overall graphics, the UI leaves a bit to be desired as well, with noticeable stutter at times and low resolution icons that can be a bit jarring. Hopefully a full 60 FPS patch will be included at a later date, but for now, the Switch 2 version isn't looking like all that much of an upgrade. Speaking of needed patches, we now get to the game's most urgent issue in need of fixing: bugs. Lots and lots of bugs. These bugs range from errors in battle mechanics to straight up game-breaking and Pokemon-deleting nightmares. Players have noticed a ton of small changes to the standard Pokemon battle mechanics, and are questioning if these are intentional or are bugs. This is most commonly seen in the move Encore, which in Pokemon Champions has been seen to cause Pokemon under the condition to pick a random target when they're trapped using the same move. One bug mechanic that is absolutely not intentional can be seen by the user Charmy on Twitter, who, as you can see in this video, has his own Pokemon's Focus Sash activated for bringing the opposing Pokemon's HP down to 1. That's not supposed to happen. But none of these bugs in battle even matter if you can't battle. Notable Pokemon VGC champion Wolf Glick experienced a matchmaking bug that completely soft-locked his game, even affecting a new save file and profile. Even before trying to find a match, trainers are experiencing possibly the most deadly bug of all, an error that occurs when transferring Pokemon from Pokemon Home into Champions. Some users report getting an error code of 9007, Seeing their Pokemon labeled as transferred to Champions within Home, without them actually showing up in the transfer section in Champions, effectively locking them in Pokemon Limbo. Hopefully these bugs will be addressed quickly and all Pokemon can be returned to their rightful place. There's no denying Champions is off to a rough start, and that's without diving into the free-to-play grind for VP some may take issue with. Joe Merrick of Cerebi even suggests not using it for VGC in its current state. Ouch. However, like many of Pokemon's misadventures on Switch, I still believe there's something great here under the surface. The question is how much effort value Pokemon is going to put in to make this game live up to its potential. That's going to do it for me. Be sure to stay tuned to GameXplain for more Pokemon Champions coverage and updates in the future. Ciao guys.